Good evening and welcome. Take a deep breath. Let the weight of the day melt into the background and settle into stillness. Tonight, you're invited on a slow and sleepy journey, not of battles or empires, but of something far quieter and perhaps even more human. You will not walk the marble halls of senators or dine with emperors. Instead, you'll drift back through time into the dusty backstreets of ancient Rome, past bustling taverns, under stone archways, and into a warm little shop where the scent of freshly baked bread mingles with soot and ash. Tonight, we follow the footsteps of someone often forgotten in the grand sweep of history. A humble bread baker, a man or woman who rose before dawn, labored over wood-fired ovens, and worked silently as the city around them stirred awake. There are no heroes here, no wars, no glory, only the soft rhythm of routine, the quiet strength of labor, and the warm glow of firelight behind thick brick walls. So now, close your eyes if you like, let your breathing slow, and imagine yourself in the heart of ancient Rome, on a day much like any other. Imagine the world is still dark. It's the early hours of morning long before the first hint of dawn, and deep inside a simple Roman street, just a short walk from the market square, a man stirs beneath a worn woolen blanket. His name is Lucius. He is a baker, and this is his morning. The air is still and cool inside the bakery. The walls, made of sun-baked brick, hold the night's chill. The faintest scent of yesterday's loaf still lingers in the corners. Slightly sweet, slightly sour, edged with smoke and dust. Lucius rises slowly, not from luxury, but from habit. There is no rooster, no clock, only the quiet rhythm of routine. First, he lights the coals. He crouches beside the low clay oven, carefully shielding the tiny flame from the drafty doorway. A twist of dry olive twigs, a breath, then another, until a faint orange glow begins to pulse beneath the ashes of the night before. The oven doesn't roar to life. It sighs, warmth returning slowly, reluctantly. Lucius does not rush it. He knows it takes time, just like the bread. Now he begins the dough. From a wide clay jar, he draws out coarse ground flour. Not white or clean like you may imagine, but speckled and earthy. The grain is mixed with chaff and stone fragments. The miller does not sift for bakers like Lucius. That privilege belongs to the wealthy. He pours water slowly, then salt, then the starter, a lump of fermented dough, passed down and fed daily, like a living memory. With his thick fingers, he kneads, and kneads, and kneads. The motion is ancient. Fold, press, turn, fold again. The room begins to fill with soft sounds. The squeak of wood, the slap of dough, the low hiss of warming coals. Outside, Rome still sleeps. The streets are quiet. The dogs haven't begun their barking. The markets haven't begun their shouting. But inside the bakery, the day has begun. When the dough is ready, Lucius pulls a worn cloth over the mound. He leaves it on the proofing shelf, just above the warm oven dome, and lets it rise. He wipes his hands on his tunic. His fingers are lined with dough, his nails edged with flour. He doesn't mind. It has always been this way. His father kneaded in this room before him. His grandfather, too. The bakery has changed very little over 3 generations. A new shelf here, a new crack in the wall there. But the rhythm is eternal. As the sun begins to creep into the narrow alleys outside, Lucius opens the wooden shutters. Faint orange light spills across the flower-streaked stone. He steps outside for a moment. The street is still quiet. A passing cart squeaks in the distance. Somewhere, a vendor clinks bronze coins into a wooden bowl. Lucius stands with his hands on his hips, breathing in the morning. It smells of smoke, clay, and damp linen, but mostly it smells of Rome. Back inside, the dough has risen. He tears it into equal lumps and shapes it with practiced hands. Flat loaves, round loaves, some with a deep cross carved in the top. A mark of baking, but also a blessing. Superstition, perhaps, but in Rome, bread is not just food. It is survival. It is ritual. It is part of the god's rhythm. Lucius lays the loaves on long wooden paddles and begins to slide them into the oven, one by one. Carefully, quietly, he hums a tune passed down through time. Or perhaps he hums nothing at all. The only sound is a crackle of wood and the occasional shift of fire brick under heat. The bread bakes slowly. He sits beside the oven, sipping watered wine from a ceramic cup, not for pleasure, just to stave off thirst. The loaves begin to change color, from pale clay to soft gold, from soft gold to warm brown. Their crusts crackle. The room grows warmer. The scent thickens, not sweet, not strong, but full, like the memory of warmth or a story you forgot you knew. This is his favorite part. He does not read poetry. He does not go to the baths. He does not listen to debates in the forum. But this is enough. The smell of rising bread, the glow of the oven, the quiet before the market wakes. Soon, the first buyers will come. Children sent by mothers, servants sent by masters, hungry workers walking to the docks, all needing something warm to carry in their hands and to fill their stomachs. Lucius prepares the wooden counter near the door. The day will soon begin again, and he will be ready. Lucius was not a man meant for marble. His name will not be found etched on temples, nor carved beneath the statues that line the Palatine Hill. He was never summoned to the Senate, never commanded a legion, never stood in the amphitheater as a hero or a martyr, or even a witness. Lucius baked bread, that is all. And yet his story, quiet and unglorified, may be the very soul of Rome. He was born in the back room of the same bakery. He would one day run. His mother, Flavia, worked as a linen washer, known for folding the fabrics in neat, perfect thirds. His father, Gaius, was a baker before him, having learned the trade during military service, when he was assigned to knead and fire loaves to the garrison posted in Gaul. Lucius was their only child, and from the moment he could walk, he walked across flower-covered stone. His childhood was not marked by schooling, but by scent. The scent of yeast, of ash, of sweat, and of rising bread. He learned to count by weighing barley flour on brass scales. He learned to listen by standing silently as his father negotiated prices with vendors in the early hours. And he learned patience by watching dough rise, slowly, steadily, without complaint. At 12, he shaped his first full loaf alone. He carved a careful cross into the top and tucked it into the warm mouth of the oven. It emerged slightly too brown, but the crust had cracked perfectly, and inside, the crumb was soft. His father did not smile easily, but that day he did. Lucius kept baking. He never asked for more than the daily rhythm. The oven, the fire, the flour, the silence, the satisfaction of shaping something warm from something dry. When he was 15, his mother passed away in winter. The illness was brief, the kind that swept through the poorer blocks near the market. She was buried just outside the city walls, wrapped in a wool sheet she had hemmed herself. That same night, Lucius baked extra loaves. Not for sale, not for coin, but for the neighbors. He handed them out before dawn, one by one. Some say the bread was unusually soft that morning, as though grief had leavened the dough. He married at 20. Her name was Unia. She came from the stall 2 streets over. A vendor of olives, always with ink-stained fingers from tallying on parchment scraps. She laughed easily. She spoke quickly, and she brought color into the bakery, tying herbs above the door and humming songs from her childhood in the hills. Together, they ran the shop. Lucius baked. Unia managed the coin. When children came, they placed a little stool near the oven so the youngest could watch the bread rise. Later, when the children began to help, they each took turns kneading. The youngest often got flour on their nose, which made Unia laugh so hard she'd snort and wipe her hands on her apron. Years passed like loaves in and out of the oven. Lucius grew slower, though his hands never forgot the rhythm. Even as gray crept into his hair and his back bent more than it used to, he still woke before the sun, still lit the coals, still shaped the dough by feel, not by sight. One spring, the emperor issued a decree. Every public bakery was to supply a portion of free bread to the plebs as part of the monthly grain dole. Lucius did not complain. He baked more. He rose earlier. He taught his sons how to stretch the flour with crushed lentils and chickpea paste. Tricks known to bakers who worked in lean times. Not to cheat, but to feed. Not to hoard, but to share. When Unia passed away one summer, taken by a fever, Lucius sat beside the oven for hours, not baking, not even lighting the fire, just listening to the silence. It was the only time he closed the bakery for a full day, and the next morning he returned and baked, because that's what the dough demanded. That's what the fire required. That's what Unia would have wanted. Lucius died in his sleep at 73 years old. No funeral procession. No gilded epitaph. Just a loaf left on the doorstep by a neighbor. A silent gesture. A tribute in crust. He was never recorded in Roman history, but in the scent of old ovens, in the cracks of ancient stones, in the ashes beneath the ruins, Lucius remains, not in bronze, but in bread. Long after the last baker like Lucius had drawn breath, the city of Rome continued to breathe, and beneath its layers, stone upon stone, ash upon ash, the whispers of its quietest workers remained. Archaeologists have found them, not the bakers themselves, but the ovens, their tools, their grindstones, their shadows etched into brick and clay. In the ruins of Pompeii, where time froze in an instant, entire bakeries have been discovered. Rooms still filled with flour-coated walls, domed ovens, and deep stone basins once used for kneading. One bakery had 81 loaves of bread still in the oven, charred, intact, their crust blackened, their markings still visible, round, divided into wedges, stamped with the emblem of the household. Bread, abandoned mid-bake, a moment frozen forever. Not a statue of a hero, not the remnants of a feast. Just bread, simple, common, profound. The pastrinum, the Roman bakery, was often part of a bustling home or shop, sometimes attached to inns, markets, or even wealthy villas. In poorer neighborhoods, they might share communal ovens, each family bringing their shaped dough to be fired in the same heat. Some archaeologists believe these communal ovens were the social heart of a neighborhood, like fountains or bathhouses, while others believe they were tightly regulated by guilds of bakers, known as the Collegia Pastorum, an organized, quiet network of breadmen. The ovens themselves, called fornaces, were made of volcanic stone or brick, shaped like a dome, much like a modern wood-fired pizza oven. Heat was not constant. It had to be built up slowly. Wood was burned directly inside, and then swept out before loaves were placed in. The residual heat would cook dozens of loaves, sometimes in batches, sometimes all at once, depending on the need. Some ovens had clever ventilation flues, indicating a deeper understanding of air flow and temperature. No blueprints, no modern thermometers, just the intuition of repetition, the knowledge passed down hand to hand, crust to crust. And then there are the querns. Great stone mills use a grind grain. They were shaped like cones, rotated by hand or donkey. The grind was not fine. The result was flour mixed with dust, stone flakes, and tiny bits of husk. Yet even with this crude meal, Romans made dozens of kinds of bread, from honey-sweetened festival loaves, to dense soldiers' rations, to flat travel cakes packed in olive oil. Bread was not just food, it was identity. To be a Roman citizen was to receive your monthly grain. To be without bread was to be forgotten. In fact, the most famous political phrase of ancient Rome still echoes today. Panem et circenses, bread and circuses. A reminder that to rule the people, you need only feed them and distract them. bakers, then, were quiet kings. They held power, not in their words or armor or gold, but in the loaves they shaped before dawn. In the house of the baker in Pompeii, there's a faded fresco. It shows a man offering a loaf to the gods, the loaf large in his head, round and marked with a deep cross. No inscription, no boast, just the image. Some believe it was a prayer. Others believe it was a tribute to craft. Perhaps both, perhaps neither. Like the warmth of a fading fire, the meaning glows but does not speak. Even in tombstones and epigraphs, bakers appear. Not often, but now and then. A name, a chisel mark, a carved loaf. Marcus, baker of the 2nd District. He fed many and asked little. These words survive not in poetry, but in stone. And even now, in excavated bakeries across Ostia, Herculaneum, and Rome itself, you can see the grooves worn into the floor by generations of footsteps. Lines of motion, flour to bowl, bowl to oven, oven to counter. The rhythm of the ordinary, the footprint of labor, the invisible trail of someone who once woke before the sun. Someone like Lucius, someone like many, someone like you, perhaps. In Rome, not all bread was baked equal, just as not all Romans rose before dawn to mix flour with water, to knead until the arms ached, or to sweep coals from an oven's mouth, while Lucius worked in his modest pastrinum, his bakery tucked behind the olive stalls and fishmongers. Another kind of Roman life unfolded just a few hills away. A world of marble courtyards and perfumed baths, of silk couches and bronze mirrors, of slaves carrying trays and no callous hands. In the grand villas of patricians, the wealthy elite, bread was not baked. It was served. Loaves arrived from private kitchens or from contracted bakeries staffed by enslaved laborers. Some of these villas had their own baking rooms, but the hands that worked the dough were rarely those of the owner. To the elite, bread was a symbol of refinement. Soft white loaves made from the finest sifted flour, free of husk, speck, and ash. Their bread was purer, whiter, sweeter, not because it was better, but because someone else bore the labor. They might dine on libum, a kind of sweet sacrificial bread made with cheese and honey, served with dates and sprinkled with ground almonds, or placenta, a layered flatbread made of fine wheat flour and goat cheese, flavored with bay leaves. Their feasts included imported delicacies, black bread from Spain, rye loaves from the northern provinces, soft rolls from Alexandria. Bread was cut with silver knives and served beside figs, olives, and cured meats, while musicians played in the background. They ate slowly, but not because they were tired, because they could afford to. Meanwhile, Lucius and thousands like him ate standing or seated on worn stools. Their bread was dense, sometimes gritty, eaten with onions, sometimes dipped in watered wine, rarely flavored, unless left over from a festival. And yet, in this simplicity, there was dignity, there was warmth, there was something real. The wealthy would sometimes hold lavish convivia, dinner parties that lasted for hours, where bread was shaped like animals or fruits. One surviving fresco even shows bread dyed red or green, shaped like birds. No one ate them. They were ornaments, decoration, edible but untouched. Lucius, by contrast, never shaped his bread to impress. He shaped it so it would bake evenly, so it would feed many, so it would last a day. Every cut, every cross mark was made with purpose, not flourish. Still, now and then the worlds did brush. On feast days like Saturnalia, rich and poor mingled more freely. Masters served slaves. Bakers delivered to noble homes. And Lucius once, just once, was invited to bake for a minor official's banquet. He shaped 15 loaves, all marked with the symbol of Mercury. He stood outside while they ate inside. And when it was over, he was given half a coin more than usual. But not thanks, not a word, just a coin, still warm from the nobleman's palm. It was a small reminder that Rome was built not just on columns and courts, but on the quiet labor of those who never wore togas trimmed in purple. On men like Lucius, on bread, warm, unremarkable, essential. And now, the fire has long since died down. The stone oven, once crackling, once glowing, now cools in silence. A faint wisp of flour still drifts through the air, as if stirred by memory, not motion. Lucius has gone to bed, not in a fine chamber, not beneath embroidered sheets, but on a straw-stuffed mat, with his back warmed by the last glow of the hearth. You can almost hear the city quieting. Outside, a cart creaks by, carrying amphorae filled with olive oil or wine. A dog barks once, then falls silent. Somewhere nearby, a mother hums a lullaby to a child. But in this tiny corner of the Roman world, in this humble bakery, everything is still. And stillness, too, is history. The great marble columns of Rome may have risen in grandeur, but it was this, the sound of dough being kneaded, of flour being sifted, of ovens breathing heat, that kept the people fed. Not emperors, not generals, bakers, men like Lucius, who woke before the light and worked while others slept, who made something from nothing, and who disappeared into time without monuments or songs, but with something softer, the memory of warmth, of bread shared by candlelight, of effort offered quietly. And though his name was never carved on the Senate walls, his hands fed those who were, and in that quiet, invisible way, Lucius mattered, and he still does. So now, as the embers dim and the streets fall silent, let the weight of the day melt away. Let your breath slow, like the turning of a millstone at rest. Let your thoughts soften, like dough rising in a wooden bowl. There is nothing more to do, no more work to finish, just a gentle rhythm of the past, like a lullaby sung in stone and ash. Sleep now, sleep like the ovens of Rome, sleep like the city beneath the stars, sleep like Lucius after a long day's bake, wrapped in the peace of honest work and the quiet comfort of dreams.